Welcome, welcome, sisters. And I wanted to come on here today to do a little bit of really honoring for the autumn equinox and really give us a little bit of space to presence the autumn equinox today, which really was activated at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. And so for those that don't know me, my name is Dr. Leonor Murciano-Luna, and I am the founder for Conscious Feminine Medicine. And so I really wanted to take a few minutes today and really honor ourselves and this really powerful transformational time that we're in, and especially today, just a few days after the full moon, with the fall equinox, which is really a time of transition, and it's a time of transformation that we're in. And this autumn equinox is a time where we're moving, the planet is really moving energetically and physically in many ways, from the maturity of the summer, from the full expression, that yang expression of the summer, into the fall, which is more of, it peaks in the summer, the energy, into the yang energy, and then in the fall it starts to kind of come in and go inward. So it's a yin energy that we start to feel all the way into the winter solstice, which is the most yin, the most inner, and the most of the feminine expressions. And so I wanted to really talk a little bit about this and honor the earth and her transition. And also, we've been under so much, pressure, and we've been under so many changes in the last couple of years, really, that I think it's really important to notice these changes when they're happening, on the outer and on the inner. And the fall season is really all about turning inward, but also about allowing ourselves to release, to reflect, first of all, to kind of like slow down and reflect what we've been going through this year. For example, spring and summer, what have we experienced? What are we ready to let go of? What transformation are we in personally? And how can we reflect more on our inner, on our essence, and really cultivate and spend time with that essence so that we can let go of things that no longer are serving us, let go of behaviors, let go of ideas, of perceptions, let go of attachments that we may have that may be holding us back in some way. And so I really think that on the fall equinox, it's really an opportunity to come into dialogue with ourselves, come into presence with ourselves, and start feeling and acknowledging where we're at. It's like a pivot point in transition, not just in the earth, but we are part of the earth. We are part of this natural process of transformation, of death and rebirth, on the mental level, on the emotional level, and of course also on the physical level. And we've really experienced a lot of different emotions and different challenges in the last couple of years, but especially in this last year, if we're just looking at this, yearly cycle of coming into the fall equinox, where are we at, and what needs to be processed within us? I know a lot of us have experienced loss, challenges, a lot of fear, a lot of stress. And so can we come to a place where we can really be with ourselves, nourish ourselves, and release some of the heaviness, release some of the pain, release some of the suffering that we may still be carrying from these past months. And really go into, it's a time of kind of preparing for hibernation. It is today as well a day of equal light and dark, of equal day and night. And so in that way, it's really that pivotal where we were, with more daylight all summer, and then now we're coming into that pivot where we'll be with more nighttime, for the rest of the year, and then also until the next big transition, winter solstice. And from there, the light starts increasing again, and then we have, of course, the spring equinox and so on and so forth. So these are pivotal times during the year that really allow us to reflect, to transition, and to connect. So because most of my work really focuses on the feminine and really activating this feminine back online, which is really the deeper essence, our divinity, our sacredness. It's also our ability to feel, and our ability to connect and acknowledge our wisdom that we carry, and our light beings, this magnificent light essence that you are. So not just our divinity, but of course our humanity, right? But the feminine is really about connecting and leading with heart, and then also connecting to our wombs, where the deep, deep wisdom and the mystery lays. So I'd like to do a little process with all of you so that we can bring in some of these elements of the fall equinox and just feel, just feel where we're at, and let ourselves kind of start moving into the direction of slowing down and letting go. And it's almost like taking inventory in a way. We're in this inventory process, and moving from outer expression to inner expression and inner reflection, so that we prepare ourselves for the coming months. And I think because of the time that we're in this great change, I think it's really important to do this, not just on this day, but on a regular basis, so that we're cultivating, in our culture that's so outwardly focused and that's so mentally focused, that we start to connect with the feminine, with the heart, and with our deeper reality of our light being. One more thing that I'd like to say before we get started into the embodied meditation is that the fall equinox also really brings a lot of energy and focuses the energy in our organs of the lungs and the large intestine. So breathing, and it's also part of the air element, right? So the air element is both the large intestine and the lung. And so the lung is our capacity to breathe and to really take in the breath, the inspiration of the universe, really, right? Because the breath, the divinity is in the breath, that unseen world, that unseen aspect, source. We breathe that in, and with each breath is so significant, and most of us don't even really breathe very deeply. And all of the challenges that we've had with, the respiratory issues and this whole epidemic involves our breathing. And so we can really do a lot with focusing on the breath, to connect us to that deeper place within us, to connect us to our essence, to connect us to these the inner dimension of the unseen. And then, of course, the large intestine really speaks to letting go. It's like letting go. Are we able to really release? You know, as we take in life, you know, we're also, we also take it into our whole digestive system and we process, which is all stomach and spleen. And then we're able to release to the degree that we can. And so again, the focus on the large intestine and releasing and transformation, letting go. And it's really a process of purification. You know, it's really a time in Chinese medicine that we can look at how can we purify, especially the thoughts that we think about ourselves, about the world, our perceptions that might not be anchored in truth or in greater reality of source or divinity. And it might be anchored in fear, or it might be anchored in separation. And so really allowing ourselves to look at, you know, the thoughts that we think, you know, the perceptions we have about ourselves, about the world, and how can we bring more heart, more feminine, more love, more light into some of these places where we feel the restriction, you know, where these thoughts might be creating pain or suffering. You know, again, thoughts about ourselves or others or situations. And so really distilling that for ourselves, purifying our minds, purifying our hearts, purifying our behaviors so that we can be more connected in the source of light within and without and outside of ourselves, of course, because it's always there. Many times we don't perceive the love or we don't perceive the safety because we're just caught in these mental constructs and all of these thoughts and all of these perceptions that have no room for wisdom or for divinity or for source or for consciousness in its pure form. And we may get stuck there. We may get stuck into being right, and then that creates its own kind of pain and isolation many times. So the lung and the large intestine is really key organs, and we can really activate them through our breath and through our consciousness and our intention of letting go and opening up to a new paradigm, to a paradigm of peace, of love, and opening up our minds as well as our hearts. And so let's just dive in. Let's dive into a little bit of a meditation and a feminine activation where we can connect, use the breath. I'm going to use some sound healing as well. And let's do that. Let's just check one thing real quick here. So as we do this, I want to just send an invocation. And first I'd like to do an invocation to Mother Gaia. And one thing that I do that I use in my work a lot is voice. I think voice is really important. Not voice as a professional singer, but voice, we all have a voice. And it's really important to activate our voice. We've really restricted our voice to just perhaps our language, and language can be very restrictive. And so just sounding, even if you're breathing and you're just sounding your exhales, like sighing or toning. And so the toning, so I'm going to do some toning with the frame drum. And it's really just allowing our intentions to be heard through sound. And they become sound codes. They become ways of communicating with the earth, with ourselves, with our hearts, with others. And it's really sending our intentions out into the world as frequencies, you know, as activated frequencies of light, of sound. And you'd be surprised if you do this in nature with the plants, with the trees, with Mother Gaia. You actually, you know, can hear her speak back to you, and you can communicate this way. So let's just, for the moment, take a deep breath and just really feel the gratitude for the earth that we're living in, and for Mother Gaia and the water, the oceans, the earth, the fire, the air, the plants. And just sending a breath, or you can tone along with me, sending a sound code to her of gratitude. And then just taking a deep breath into that. And just breathing and allowing. And then bringing your hands to your heart. And let's do a little bit of our activation for today. And let's begin by feeling your heart, bringing your hands to your heart. And just noticing, it's almost like just coming into awareness of your body, of what you're feeling in your body. And just breathing. And then just becoming aware of how your breath comes in. And when your breath is coming in, especially if you're focusing on your heart, it's like feeling your body expand and rise in relationship to your breath, and then also contract in relationship to your exhale. So just feeling that dance. Just noticing that rhythm in your own body. And it's like the rise and fall of your body that's in relationship to your breath. You inhale and your exhale. And as you do that, you're really being grateful for your breath. Just for the simple act of breathing. And breathing, feeling your lungs expand also. The inhale. And it almost feels like your whole chest is rising and then falling. as we're doing that and our hands are still on our hearts, we start to recognize the breath as life-giving, as the animating force, as the activating force that actually activates not just what we know as oxygen and breath in your body, but it's actually activating your whole magnetic electrical field. And so this breath is a really powerful thing. And noticing that you are now conscious of your breath, but most of the time you're not conscious of your breath, and it's not something you're doing, but something that is really happening without your effort necessarily. How the universe, source, great mother, how she is supporting you in this incarnation, in the physical realm, supporting you, breathing you, giving you life. And so in many ways you can start to lean into your breath, and you can start to let go a little bit, let go of your agenda, let go of having to do things, let go of, and just for now, let go of the thoughts, and noticing if there's any judgments coming in or any feelings that are right there on the surface. Sometimes there's feelings that aren't processed. There might be grief, sadness, which is also, by the way, is also the time of this autumn season. Grief and sadness. And it's a time also of feeling our losses, and we've had many. Continuing to breathe into that space. So there's the inspiration that the breath brings, the confirmation of life in a way, and then there's also grief and sadness and loss that might be there. So really making room for all of it. Expanding your heart really wide, the container of your heart, and your field. Your field goes on for 5-10 feet, depending on your field. So you have the capacity to feel many things if you allow yourself to really expand more into your, what we would call the soul level. Just breathing and allowing. And in this day of equal light and dark, we can connect with the light and the dark within ourselves. We can connect with the duality that we were just talking about, all of these different feelings from one end of the feelings that feel good to the feelings that might be challenging and that might not feel good. Those are always the ones that we try to repress in some way or that are uncomfortable. or that we may judge ourselves or shame ourselves for feeling. So realizing that your light, your field, your essence that we're breathing into now, we're activating, is actually greater, and it's like the container, and the feeling are just like waves of energy that move within that container, right? But the feelings, we judge ourselves for our feelings, and we make certain ideas about who we are in respect to our feelings. But the truth is that feelings are just, they're not who we are. They are just energy waves. We can think of them as energy waves that can be experienced from a particular situation, or it can be experienced from passed down in our feminine lineage, or any lineage really. And so our feelings are not who we are. We attach ourselves a lot to our feelings. We describe ourselves also with particular feelings, and we might have more feelings than others that we experience, kind of like as part of our constitution, but they're not who we are. Your dimension of light is so much bigger than any particular feeling. And so letting your heart expand into that reality and that truth, and being able to carry both, and to feel and to express both sides of the emotions, the pleasant and the unpleasant. Because in this duality that we live in, we are going to experience both. It's part of the nature of the earth. And then bringing, if our right hand is on our heart, we can bring our left hand into right on our womb, our sacral womb, which is right on your lower abdomen. And then feeling the connection from our hearts to the womb. And just feeling our energies in the womb. And just noticing what you notice. There's no right, there's no wrong. It's your personal journey. You're kind of taking a little time out in this very auspicious day to tune in and feel. And also activate, right? And feeling our womb. And just as we breathe, let's breathe all the way through into the womb. Letting that expand with each breath. And then exhaling. And again. And as you expand, you can feel the sacrum opening in the back. You can feel the breath going into your hips. You can feel the breath going down into the pelvic floor. And it's almost like a balloon expanding, expanding. And just noticing what you feel, what sensations. Physical sensations, there might be emotional sensations, there might be mental thoughts. And just feeling all of it. No agenda. Maybe there's tightness in a particular area. Maybe you feel restricted. Maybe you feel other feelings there. Maybe you feel joy. Maybe you feel like you can actually settle a little bit. Maybe it feels actually pleasant and safe to kind of go that deep in your womb and in your root. Maybe you haven't been here before, and maybe you have. Maybe you've done this daily. So, no judgment, just noticing, bringing your awareness into the space of your womb, connected with heart. And then asking yourself to reflect on this year. And as you reflect on this year, and you're not asking yourself mentally, by the way, you're asking your heart, and you're asking the wisdom within you, right? You're asking, as you reflect on this year, you know, are there any emotions that I need to face, that I need to let go of? Are there any judgments about myself or about others that I need to, that I would like to let go of, that I would like to release, that I would like to surrender? Are there any habits that I'm aware of? Are there any challenges that have taken place of during this year that I would like to surrender and maybe find a new way to be in the world, or a new way to be with myself? And maybe there's some painful emotions that you'd like to surrender and let go of. Maybe there's anger and rage and injustice that you're feeling. And having a desire to surrender doesn't mean that you're wrong. It doesn't mean that, you know, there was an injustice, for example. It doesn't mean that you're necessarily giving in. It means that you don't want to hold on to these emotions that are painful and that are causing you more suffering. So just taking a deep breath into your womb and just noticing what arises. Sometimes what arises in your heart are things that are completely unexplained, unconscious. You didn't even know. Perhaps you get an image or a feeling. And just breathing into that. And whatever it is that you realize that you'd like to surrender, we can just set that intention and ask the divine and source and to allow you to surrender that, to allow you the space, the trust, the safety, to be able to surrender that and to make that intention in your mind. And then you just breathe into it. There's nothing to do. It's more about setting the intention and opening up to another reality. Because many times when we're in our emotion or our thought, our behavior, our perception, our conditioning, we're completely consumed by it, and we can't even imagine that there's another way. And some of us try to figure it out, and this is not about figuring it out. This is about surrendering whatever is there that you're ready to let go of, and then opening up to another possibility. But not that you're going to figure it out. It actually arises as an inspiration. It actually arises as intuition or wisdom. Many times we call it epiphanies, right? It arises from a deeper dimension. And it does involve trust, and it does involve safety. And so knowing that the universe is really and that even our challenges are here for us to evolve into greater light of who we are, the greater light of love. So it's about really opening up to love and reality. And so just noticing and breathing into that womb. And maybe you notice that there's a few things that you'd like to let go of, and there's a few difficult challenges you've had this year. You know, many of us have had deaths of people that we've known or people that we're close to. Many of us have had a lot of stress, a lot of fear. And so it's just noticing these things that are there in your heart, in your womb, and just, it's like as we breathe right into them, it's almost like just bringing the love and then just surrendering it. It's just really simple, not always easy. But that's how transformation happens, because transformation is not something we do, it's something we allow. We allow in. A love frequency vibrates at a particular frequency, and we can bring that love into the places of pain, of challenge, of difficulty, and then letting it transform, and then see what is born from that, what arises from that, what wisdom we receive, what inspiration we receive, what healing, really, that is what healing is. Being with all of these elements in our womb and in our heart. And then also, let's move into really envisioning the other organ of our large intestines, and just really breathing into our large intestines. And it's almost like, you know, letting go. It's like this feeling of letting go. It's this feeling of really being with that organ that is usually not mentioned at all. And also activating it and letting our whole nervous system recalibrate a little bit. Recalibrate so that we're not such on edge, and we can lean into our breath and allow. And that way we can rest a little bit, not always having to be figuring things out, or, you know, what's the next step, or what do I have to do here. It's like, I can just be. I can just be, and I can surrender this to source, to the divinity outside of me, within me. It's all one divinity. We are an expression of that consciousness. And so just letting go a little bit, letting go, especially if there's any place in our body that's tight, like our lower back, our hips, knees, sometimes shoulders. Just allowing. And then as you're allowing, seeing all of that energy moving into the large intestines and down through our root, through our legs, through the bottom of our feet, and into the ground and into Mother Gaia as she transforms in her season of transformation. feeling the connection again with Mother Gaia, with the earth. And even in your feet and in your root, feeling her energy coming up, feeling it in your body. And you can feel this exchange of energy even in her gravity, right? So gravity, we feel gravity in our body. It allows us to let go into her, right? So gravity is an expression of that love of the earth, of Mother Gaia. And you can see yourself, it's like you can see yourself almost as a tree. And, you know, in the fall season where your leaves are falling, and yet you have very strong roots into the earth. And just feel that strength that the earth, that Mother Gaia is giving you, holding you no matter what. And you're just letting go of everything that is no longer needed, that is no longer serving you in any way. Yeah, and it's a whole process of transformation. And yet you know you're safe, you know you're deeply rooted, and you're held. You're held in your physicality by Mother Earth. And of course you're held in your divinity by consciousness and by your breath. So in many ways you're sustained in all of these ways, and you can lean into that realization. So just breathing as we come to a close. And you can continue to do this all throughout the fall season. And just breathing, and you can also journal all of these pieces that you want to let go of. And we're going to end with just connecting with our breath again, being conscious of our breath and how it's sustaining us, even when we're not bringing any effort to it. And how it's connecting us to that divine essence, activating our field, our magnetic electrical field, and allowing transformation to happen so that you can give birth to new possibilities and new aspects of yourself, new ways of being. It's really a process of liberation, what you're doing. And so again, just breathing and really being in the gratitude to our breath, to Source, to the Great Mother, to the Earth Mother, and of course to all of the light beings and all the angels and your guardians and your guides and all of those that are helping us even more now in this time of great transition. And I want to thank you all very much for joining me in this embodied process today in the fall equinox. Many blessings and peace.